How's it going?
Oh my god, I feel like I have a hangover.
Oh gosh. Okay, so I think we need a lesson here.
Yes, one second. I'm grabbing my putty. I need someone to fidget with.
Okay. I think we need a lesson on caffeine.
Yes, and by the way, Crazy Aaron or Aaron Muderick, if you're watching or if we tag you, I'm a huge addict consumer of your thinking putty. I have learning disabilities and mental health challenges. I live in Vancouver, BC, Canada, and I would love to be a influencer or ambassador for your product. And if you're watching this, we'll tag you because I really, really use this every day for my health. And thank you for creating it.
That's awesome. I actually, you know what? I'm sorry,
She's
I
Jewish as well.
didn't mean to giggle because I was like, and my address and my phone number.
Well, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Not not in a public recording, but yes.
And yeah, it's okay. Well, no, it's I actually saw that for the first time, the Aaron's putty, because like I know you use it. I had never heard of it before. It's a lot of different colors and styles, and holy Toledo, it's like
There's over 70 different styles now.
it's an empire. Yeah.
It is, and it's got like the scented ones. So like this is one smells like gumballs. This one smells like peppermint,
Cool.
and they have like really beautiful sparkles in them, which is really nice.
I think I need to get me. I know where to get some in my neck of the woods. I actually saw it somewhere, so I'm curious about that.
Did you get it when you were buying toys for Noah?
Yes,
Of course you did.
I
Of
didn't.
course you did.
I didn't want to say I saw it at a toy store because it just makes it seem like a child's toy.
No,
And that's like, and I didn't want to say that, but I did.
no, it's all. You know what? I gave a lot of Aaron's putty that I wasn't using as frequent, and I gave it to my cousin who also is named Aaron. And so I thought that would be a fun little kind of side note. But then as I brought them over to my aunt and uncle's, that my aunt and uncle and Aaron were literally all playing with various kinds of the putty, and we were talking for an hour just playing with it. And my aunt was like, "Holy shit! I've actually been playing with this for an hour. This is great. Like I haven't done this for ages, you know."
Well, it's like it's a more advanced version of a stress ball. I mean,
Yes, it is.
around for many, 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 many years.
Totally.
Back to caffeine for a second. So I'm just curious because I know I know you were never really a caffeine drinker or like a
No,
coffee drinker, because I know I shouldn't say caffeine specifically because I know
no,
matcha and yes, green tea is caffeine. It's just totally different bottle of
so
wine.
different, so different.
My question, so okay, so first of all, for myself and someone who also with anxiety and like has a mind that races, I cannot have coffee after like 2 o'clock. And you told me you had one late at like not late at night, but like in.
6 p.m. like dinner time without any solid food in me.
See, yeah, number one mistake. I know you probably know this. It's like I'm preaching to the choir. I know you already know those things. So like I can't do that for sure. And I have to, even in the morning, like if I have my coffee, I have to have food, like also a breakfast or something
Oh, okay, okay,
in my stomach.
okay, yeah.
I only have like maybe 1.5 shots with my oat milk. That's it.
Okay, so what I ended up having, well, first and foremost, let's give some background about this. So, as Rachel was pointing out, I am a daily caffeine drinker. I don't need it. I know I don't need it, but my body obviously is used to having it. Um,
Hmm.
and it's also just happens to be. It's not the caffeine part. It's the fact that the things that I like to drink have caffeine in them,
Right. But
right? Which is fair.
normally I've correct me if I'm wrong, but normally for you it's been like green tea.
Green tea base for sure. Yeah. So like over the last, I don't know, maybe seven 7 years, 8 years. I don't know when it really started, but I've been consuming matcha for many years, both for its health benefits, but also just because it has a great taste when combined with a little bit of sugar and the right kind of milk base. And then also, bubble teas as well, which have black and oolong tea bases, but mainly I would do like passion fruit green tea, some kind of green fruit tea,
Hmm.
with pearls and stuff. So yes, there's sugar in that. And then I got off the pearls because I was really realizing, though I love to suck balls every day and I had an oral fixation, from childhood, I actually was addicted to the pearls, the sensation. So I actually cut my addiction to pearls, and then realized that the bubble tea wasn't as gripping as it once was. However, I still enjoy myself some orange jasmine green tea with coconut jelly from Genderdan, which is another Taiwanese franchise, which is
Okay.
extremely delicious. However, my usual daily beverage that I do consume, though, is the I'm going to say it as I would order it, and Rachel heard me order it the other day, which is hilarious. I get a venti ice green tea latte with oat milk.
Yep.
Instead of cane sugar, I substitute with honey blend, which is still sugar in the end of the day, but at least it's honey, and as far as I know. And then I get it with an extra scoop of matcha and light ice. So that's what I normally get. Or if when it's like, cold seasons, I'll get the same thing, but as a hot latte.
That's not terrible. Like I
No, it's not.
no.
It's really not compared to what else you could get and what else is out there. But when they release this new drink, the whatever it is, brown sugar oat milk espresso, whatever it's called, that's not the name of the drink, but like that. It really it's oat milk, cold brew blonde espresso, and some brown sugar syrup. That gives the balance of sweetness with bitterness and also cuts the acid and the astringency of coffee, which I'm not used to. So I forgot that coffee, I always think of it as bitter, but not acidic, which people confuse, but they are different parts of taste
Yep.
and flavor. So, because I realized how sweet it was, and that's what it was, the sugar that I was really interested in, as opposed to the espresso, though it tasted great together.
Yeah.
Sid would get it half sweet. So I remember that when I got it yesterday, I said, "Oh, let me try it half sweet." So
Yeah.
when I got it half sweet and I sipped it, and it was a venti, and again, a venti is not a lot of liquid to me. That's not what, like, I'm used to that amount, but I keep forgetting that when you get a venti, it's 4 shots, right?
Yes.
So what I do is that if it's like 4 scoops of matcha, 5 scoops of matcha, that's different. And also tea stimulates you. It doesn't buzz you, it stimulates you. So
Oh,
when you have coffee, it buzzes you. It fucking goes right away, which I forgot about. But I was so tired, I didn't care. I needed something to wake me up because it was like, how am I going to stay awake until, I don't know, midnight? So then I got a venti without the sugar, half of it. And I thought, okay, well, if it's half sweet, I'm still going to taste some sweetness. I swear they didn't put any sugar in it, any at all. I don't even know how. And so when I drank it,
in the background?
yeah, I don't know what he said, but when I started drinking it, it tasted fine. But when I got back to my mom's, because I was going from my mom's and back just for a few minutes, I got home like, "Do you have any oat milk? Do you have cinnamon?" And so like I tried to spike it with some more oat milk, and she only had a little bit of oat milk left. So I'm like, "Ah, crap, I can't finish her oat milk." Then I dusted some cinnamon on it, and it tasted fine, and I could palate it. And she's like, "Do you want some honey?" I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. I got this with less sugar for a reason."
Yeah.
And then, sure enough, I was like in 20 minutes, I was like, my eyes, I'm sure, were dilated. I'm sure I had no brown left in my fucking eyes. They were just black pupils. And then when I got home, or like a couple hours later, and then Sid came over as well. So the three of us, I'm like, "Oh, my stomach hurts. Oh, I feel kind of like weird." And then it must have been subtle, but I kept, and I loved it, but I was always being checked with like, "Are you okay? How are you feeling?" And I'm like, is this what it's like to be wired? And then Sid just says,
Yeah. Yeah.
"Oh,
Yeah.
okay, no, I can't do this. I
No,
can't.
but
This is not good for my nervous system. I can't do this."
but but people, like, you're right. Like I don't know if I realized right away. I mean, it's been years now since I've had like a venti at
Yeah,
Starbucks, but yeah, they up the ante with the shots of espresso in the large sizes, right? So
hmm
unless you tell them, but how would you know that? Unless you tell them, no, 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 just one shot of espresso, like leave it. You can
yeah.
do that, right?
Well, for sure. But even more ridiculous though, when you get like your free. This is such a plug for Starbucks, but hey, any coffee shop that has like point systems, whatever. I always used to tap my debit card and just, not
Yeah.
add money to my app. And then my friends kept saying, use the Starbucks app. You're going to get free drinks pretty quickly if you go daily. And I'm like, yeah, well, I do. And whatever, at least I can have that privilege. So when I tapped it, And I realized, oh, I get points. Then when you get a free drink, you can add any custom you want without paying for it. So I'm like, well, I'm going to do this. So I got my matcha latte a week and a half ago or something, and it was later at night. And I didn't get caffeine added, but I got decaf shots of espresso and I added 3 because I did like 2 before and it was fine. It was a great blend. Or maybe I did 1 shot. Maybe it was like 1 shot of espresso for the flavor, then the matcha. And the matcha and espresso together with the oat milk was amazingly delicious. It was really, really good. It was like a matcha espresso. But when I added 3 and I went and got it and I drank it, it was similarly tasting. It was very bitter. It was too much bitterness with not enough sweetness. And I was like, yep, this is delicious. I am enjoying this $10 drink that I got for free after spending too much money on these convenient beverages of corporatocracy. And I was just like,
Gosh.
oh.
And I have to look this up, but someone once told me, it was actually a massage therapist years ago, when I went to him because my body was all cramped like a freaking pretzel. My grandma always used to say, I feel like a pretzel, when she felt like so uptight. I don't know why. Twisted. Like I was so twisted.
Yeah.
All from anxiety. And the guy said to me, he's like, well, do you drink coffee? And I said, well, I actually, at that point, I just had decaf coffee. But he said to me that there's something about the decaf coffee that actually still has some sort of property in it that is not good for anxiety, still with decaf. I don't know. He said it was almost worse than drinking caffeinated coffee. Or caffeine.
Interesting.
I don't know. I need to look that up. I'm not sure. Maybe he was just blowing smoke up my ass. I have no idea.
A lot of people do.
Blow smoke up my ass.
Yes, exactly. And then you get that nice earthy, sultry kind of roasted feeling of chestnuts over an open fire. And now I'm starting to sound like a Christian.
Oh, mouth shut. Speaking, okay, well, we're gonna pop all over the place here, but like we're speaking a lot about coffee, but did you know there's a bean that somewhere, and this is probably like almost common knowledge now because it was so bizarre. There's a bean in the world somewhere, coffee bean, where a cat eats the bean. Have you heard this? Eats the bean, digests it, poops it out its butt, and and they use the bean. It's like a very high quality coffee bean that a cat literally ingests, digests, and shits out, and then that's like, you've never heard of that?
Is it called Pussy Turdica?
I like that. Let's look it up. Cat shitting coffee. Cat poop coffee beans.
It's called cat shit coffee beans. Are you serious?
That's what I Googled.
Okay, just checking just to make sure our listeners, when they listen to this ridiculousness, that they make sure they get the right product in their hand.
But if you Google cat poop coffee beans, it comes up. So there's it's made from the world's most expensive coffee. Kopi Luwak is made from coffee beans plucked from a cat's feces, essentially.
Kopi Pulak?
Kopi, Kopi.
Yeah.
And then Luwak. Yeah. It's a
Kopi Luwak. Huh.
Yep. It's a thing.
Okay, people. So if you have cats and you want to make money off of your pussy, then, you can just start making coffee from your cat turds. Great.
Oh, goodness. Great.
Does it say any kind of cat?
Good question. Well, it's mainly produced on the Indonesian islands of...
Indonesian islands.
Java, Bali. Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And and it's a certain cat. I've never heard a civet.
A civet.
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 Okay, so it's not a house cat. I should say that.
Well, of course, I would assume it's not a house cat. It would be something in the wild, yeah.
It's a small, lean, mostly nocturnal mammal native to tropical Asia and Africa, especially in the tropical forests.
Holy shit. Do you want to share your screen and type it in, and so that way those that are listening and watching can see what a civet looks like?
I will try to find a photo. They're not like, it's not the best photo of, I probably could look up better photos, but it's kind of, oh, it's like, do. Can you see that? There. Oh, that's a good shot.
That's a feline?
Yeah. It almost looks like a badger, hey?
Yeah.
Badger crossed with a cat.
Or like an Italian greyhound, like blended with a dachshund.
Oh, and okay, and this almost looks like a badger. Can you see its face? There you go.
It totally does look like a badger's face.
Yeah.
Oh, look how cute that is. We should call that Kivit. We should call Kismet the Kivit.
Kivit sounds like a Yiddish word, doesn't it?
Or like kibbutz.
Anyway, yeah, there's your little tidbit of trivia.
I love it. I love it. I think it's great how much you can learn. It brings me back to when we were doing our 8 days of live on Instagram. Go check it out. It's a gem. It's going to win lots of web screen awards. And how we were just talking about like the origin of something, and we're like, oh wow, like look at how much we talked about from nothing. It's like it's like a Seinfeld recap.
Yeah, it is like that's more of a holiday thing because it
is.
But
yeah,
if you don't know anything about Jewish holidays, we're still really much virgins in that respect because, you know,
we're kosher virgins.
Kosher versions, versions.
Version
of a virgin. Yeah.
As you say, we talk about such bullshit.
We do, you know, and we've only been doing this for what, like 8 months, maybe something like that. It'll start to get more refined and whatnot. We will actually have like specific topics we'll actually focus on for one whole episode.
We will, but a part of the charm is what people say. They like me and you shooting the shit and just bouncing all over because it's very relatable. So,
and my facial expressions, huh?
Oh my god! I know. Oh, look how cute you are! You're so stylish with your facial expressions. It's gonna be like the next Instagram filter.
That's creepy. We have filters with Chef Nick being a piece of toast. We recently actually with Chef Nick Peters Bond, a Hell's Kitchen alum from 2 seasons. He was on one regular season and then an all-star season. And we just actually did an Instagram live cook with him he was in Massachusetts or is in Massachusetts, Hiiro in Vancouver, myself in Vernon. 3 of us got together on IG Live and we cooked crab cakes, which was so hopefully we'll somehow get that recording and put it on our YouTube because it was great. And it's such a simple thing to cook. Like it's impressive. Crab cakes sound impressive, but it's very simple.
It's so simple. It's like making a latke without all the work of potatoes.
Exactly. Totally. And without the shredding of all the onions, the potatoes, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, me and you used like canned crab meat, which maybe was to our demise, but it turned out to be it tasted great with the ingredients that we used.
It did. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny because he felt so bad. He's like, because, you know, he's from a coastal area where crab is prevalent. And so he's like, I feel really bad because I didn't really think about, you know, crab is just a thing. They like fresh crab.
Right.
All the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. But you know, the fact is I really it was cool to be able to go in and think someone like me with fine motor and gross motor output challenges to actually, for the most part, 85% of the entire process to do in the kitchen, at least. Finding the ingredients is a little bit challenging, especially all the seasonings and spices and all that. So thankfully Sid was able to help with that. But I swear to God, we went through 3 different grocery stores all over downtown. It was like our own version of the Amazing Race, and we had a time crunch, and we got back, and you're like, I'm ready. And I'm like, I'm not ready. I gotta get all this shit on the counter and get all the, you know, all of my fruit and salsa bowls out and all that shit. And
I know. Well, it's all the prep, and then also like when you're I was gonna say when you're taping it. That's such an old school thing of saying when you're recording it, when you're recording it, you want it to look, you know, presentable. So then spending time on that and
we did well though.
We did. It
But
was
it was so funny because my ring light, because of how we have the same ring light, and so it was kind of hanging off the edge of my table. It wasn't fully stood it up correctly because the width of the table it was on wasn't wide enough to handle the base of the stand. So
yeah.
at the end of our IG live, I was literally standing wedged between us, like I don't know, 2.5 or 3 foot space between my countertop and that table that my phone is on. Crossing my legs, trying to like stand up and stuff and bend, and I couldn't really sit down.
Oh, great. Oh, I didn't
So
even,
I was like stuck.
I didn't notice that.
Well, good. I'm glad you didn't.
I'm just looking at you right now, and it's just like, I think that now, eventually when the name Hero Prince becomes a household name, your what they're going to dress up for on Halloween is in that green hoodie.
They're gonna know they're gonna brand me with my turquoise UB hoodie and Bose headphones.
Yep, exactly.
At least the color looks good.
At least it's consistent.
At least it's consistent. Exactly. It's so funny when people imitate me, which is infrequent, or they impersonate me, and they always put headphones on because I forget I wear headphones. I'm so used to it. I'm like, oh wait, that's actually what I look like.
You do. I know. Yeah, actually, can I ask you about that? Do you mind me asking about that?
No, not at all. What about it though? I have no idea what you're asking.
Oh, because when we first met, I do remember that, you had your headphones around your neck, and it was like, I guess I'm just curious, is it like a comfort thing? Because you have them all the time, and I've never known anybody who had their headphones with them all the time, like all the time. And
Interesting.
it was like an accessory.
Yeah, you know what? I don't remember. I've been wearing over the headphones for
Over the ear.
over the earphones for early 20s, I guess, maybe. I always using earbuds or things like that.
Yeah.
And earbuds always break or fall apart, or the wires get fucked up, or I lose them. And so I kind of thought, you know what, I need to have something that's big enough that I won't lose them, and that when I'm not using them, I can keep them on my body so I won't misplace them, or I can control what kind of ricochet or maybe damage they might get. So then I thought, if I have something over the head, one, my ear canals are going to be way less damaged because I have something covering my ears instead of inside my ears. And I use music all the time just to keep me in a space of introspection and away from the outer stimulation of society, I think.
That's kind of that's probably what I thought, makes sense.
And
Yeah.
even though I'm not autistic and I don't have, technically you can't say Asperger's anymore because I didn't realize it was identified by a Nazi. I didn't know that. But because I'm not on the spectrum of autism, I do have autism tendencies that are connected through NVLD. And so although it doesn't show up in NVLD symptoms, I think it does help because my nervous system can be so overly stimulated so easily. Having that plus having noise cancellation to drown out external stimulus, whether if it's sirens, if it's fire trucks, if it's people shouting or screaming, or a gunshot or anything, or fireworks, I barely hear it. And so I really feel I'm in my own cocoon, I guess. So I'm in my own space of comfort, knowing I have something to protect me.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. 100%. I totally, that makes complete sense. And actually that's a sort of, a decent segue into stimulation and society that we're walking back into again.
Yeah, that's a great segue. Yeah. Because
I'm starting to feel like, and I posted something about this on my personal Instagram yesterday. Was it? Yeah, it was yesterday. It's for those of us who are nervous by nature. That could be a name of a band.
It could be.
Sure. Ooh, I like that. I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah.
Do not steal that, people. By nature. So for those of us that are like that, and with this whole pandemic and just kind of getting used to a new normal, and now having to go back into the old normal, which is also a new normal.
Yes.
What I'm finding that's triggering for myself is not just seeing on social media, but hearing from friends and things like that, whom are seemingly unaffected by going back out there and being so excited to reintegrate. And it's like, it's not affecting them whatsoever. And it's like, it seems like they aren't nervous about it. And it's, it makes me almost feel less than, in a way that I'm feeling quite nervous about it. And you're not actually seeing that side of things. You're seeing a lot of the side of people who are super stoked to get out there, and they're doing these things again, and that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But for those of us that are, just trying to take baby steps into doing those things,
right,
it just feels like that side of the picture is not being shown. And I think that needs to be talked about. I think that people need support, and I think reintegrating into society is going to be difficult for a lot of people, but that's something that I'm not really seeing. Unless it's just the people that I, have surrounded I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't have the large, I think some people could argue that my bubble might be larger than others, but mine is definitely, I'd say, somewhere happily in the medium. It's definitely not, because I don't have group friendships. I don't have bubbles of people that I surround myself with. I have a lot of more one-on-one friendships, and I can count them on my two hands, more like one hand, and I see them frequent. So those individuals, I definitely know some of them are in the same mindset that you are. One of them for sure. And that's not a criticism. It's a natural concern, especially because they've experienced some things that are related to what we've had to go through. And so therefore, it's more real to realize there is a lot of risk in what our health has gone through, and how it affects us long term, but also the sensitivity or the insensitivity of those around us, as you're speaking to, that are mainly in the media showing how things are reopening and not talking about the recovery process of trauma from what we've had to go through for the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
My personal stance on it is that I'm quite desensitized. Plus, I live for what my spectrum is in terms of my normal, I guess, live in a busy city. As far as our province is concerned, I live in the main city.
Yep.
And working, I think part of the reason why I actually got a job in a retail setting in a modified capacity was to stay social with people, to not lose that sense of socialization with the general public and different personalities, and kind of not having to recondition as much once I return full time to teaching and being around people all the time. But also because I am very hands-on and tactile with my students to facilitate release and support in their bodies, I didn't want to have that sense of discomfort once I go back into a space where we're socially acceptable to do that, where I would feel nervous and that it would throw my own teaching off. So I had to kind of strategize, how do I do this safely while also having a sense of purpose? Well, I can't teach full time, but having some kind of job environment that I can still be human in,
And that's big of you and so smart. Like what I, in the very beginning of the pandemic, what I ended up doing is I just retreated into my home and was like a lot of people did, and was just like, I need to find something where I'm going to work from home. I don't want to work in the public at all. And I didn't challenge myself in that respect. At all. So it's going to be, and then, also I live in a smaller town now too. So part of me almost wishes that I don't know, I had like some even part-time 1 day a week gig where I was forced to kind of work with the public. So I wouldn't be so shell-shocked now kind of getting back out there. But
yeah, well, and also and again, I think it's important to identify there is no right or wrong or either end of any spectrum. Like there's no polarity in terms of how we chose to live through the COVID-19 pandemic.
And I have to say, totally. What I have to say is that the decisions though I've made were actually quite healthy in the long run, because I had left a job that was very much in the public and going from store to store and being on the road and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? I was not happy in that job anyway. So I switched gears and I went to something that I do actually enjoy doing. So yes, that, there's definitely a lot of positives in that respect. I guess my point is that I just know there's a lot of people out there that need support, I think, and just need to feel like they're not alone in this way.
Yeah.
Because, you might feel badly like, oh God, like I wish I could just feel the way so-and-so is feeling, because they're out there and they're having a good time and they're happy and they seemingly are not affected by, being scared to kind of go through their life again. But people that are fearful still of that, and especially those that not with just anxiety, with health anxiety and all that kind of stuff. So you're not alone.
No, definitely.
And the conversation and the topic, I think, should be opened up and discussed, because it'll just if we don't talk about it, it's just gonna prolong the process of getting back out there for people. So
well, yeah, and and I'm quite open about this. Like, it's no secret. I mean, I do work a retail job currently, and I enjoy it a lot. The work of what I do, I enjoy a lot. And like any customer service facing position, you'll find environments or times of the days you're working that are a little bit higher stress in terms of the demands of the people you're serving. And, that's just life. But what has been sustainable enough to handle those stressors has been the limited capacity that we are permitted to have in our store at one time and in a controlled environment. When we know that our businesses across the board, a space will have its own capacity anyway, like every building does. But with our capacities being lifted and having more people in a general space, and then if you have the same amount of people that are working or providing the service, but then there's more people in the space that you're serving, that turns the tables a little bit in terms of being able to provide the same level of connection and maintaining the standard of what you're doing. It makes it harder. It doesn't make it less sustainable, but it does make it more tricky when you have to be thinking faster and moving faster than you're used to in an environment that you've been brought into. So I am kind of
sorry, I was like, I could hear that. What's that?
He's spilling his nose. So what I'm getting at is that that's a fear that I have, like a natural fear that I have, is that I don't know if I can sustainably be in. It doesn't matter what environment it is, but to be in an environment where you have that many people saturated around another and you don't really have the ability to control your environment or who's coming in or who's going out. It's just continuously like a rotating door. Because when I had that kind of structure, even if it was non-COVID, it was in a yoga studio where you knew there was a certain bracket of when people come in and when people go out. Like, you have a schedule, when classes start, when they finish, and there's kind of a cycle. When you're looking in any kind of retail, like a drugstore, even like London Drugs, or if you go into American Eagle, you don't know what's going to happen. You literally have no predictability over who's going to come in, what their needs are going to be like, what moods are going to be like. And I guess you could do the same thing as a yoga teacher. I mean, yes, every day I do as a yoga teacher, but it's still a contained environment where you are the facilitator of what the people are there for, and they're looking to you. Like, you're the conductor. Whereas in a retail setting of any kind, you're not the conductor.
No, and
you can't conduct a space.
Also, like as a yoga teacher, like you have a class capacity, how many students sign up ahead of time. Maybe you kind of have an idea of probably
have a sense of your regular students or your drop-in students and your knowledge of what they're coming in to consume, or people following.
It's funny.
Of others more experienced.
I never really thought of retail like that, but that's interesting because I worked retail for a number of years as well. And there is a real unpredictability of whom is coming in and people are coming in, how long they're going to stay. You have no idea.
You have no idea.
Basically at their their mercy in a way.
Yeah, you are.
So that's interesting for somebody who might be triggered by people's energies or personalities or the amount of people or the, that can be very overstimulating. And I guess that's your point. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but also as I talked about, my main triggers of my anxiety specifically are anticipation,
Yeah.
transitional,
Yep.
and social. Those are my three main anxiety triggers, and I'm sure that I have more because there's endless. But those are by far my because you can't anticipate. You can have an idea, but you truly can't anticipate the future. You don't know what's going to come up in 5 minutes from now. The social setting, you don't know if you don't have control over your immediate social environment, then you have no idea who or what you're going to get. So you have to brace yourself to be able to adapt. And then the adaptability factor, you burn out eventually because you can't keep switching gears and meeting people where they're at to mimic and be on their same wavelength every single minute. So that takes a toll on someone that is neurodivergent because they can't fully sustain that for more than a few hours before they burn out and they're like, I'm done. You can't do that for 8 hours a day, every day of the week.
No. And that's just, I mean, in a nutshell, not to make it sound very simple, but really anxiety is at the crux of it. It's the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
You can almost blanket it in that sense, but it's, and just not being able to trust what actually is maybe happening in the present moment.
Yeah.
At least for myself.
Well, and also I kind of look at it as anxiety is not just anxiety takes the what and puts it and adds the if with the question mark. I just thought of that out of thin air, but that is exactly how I look at anxiety. Anxiety is the what with the if and the question mark.
Yes. But I'm gonna twist it a little bit here.
Yeah.
You can turn that into a positive too, because through the anxiety guy, so someone whom we've had on our podcast in an earlier episode, he talks about how anxiety will say what if, but what if something good happens? That's also a possibility.
Yeah, what if something good happens? Exactly.
It's like, well, what if I trip and smash my head on the pavement and I end up in the hospital? Okay, but what if you don't? What if you don't trip and you walk smoothly and you end up skipping and you're, super happy? So,
well, yeah, it's having that half glass full versus half glass empty.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just training the brain and
and choosing optimism, choosing having the benefit of the doubt, having the greater, thinking about the greater versus the lesser. And again, it's retraining our brain not to self-sabotage and not to think about the worst outcome right away.
And I don't know why that was such a huge aha moment I hate using that term, but why not? Such a huge aha moment for me. But it's like, okay, well, what if this? But
yeah.
But yes, if that's possible, then what if something positive? That's also a possibility, right?
Absolutely. It's totally a possibility. And it gives the reflection to realize how conditioned we are, Mm-hmm. And it makes me continuously challenge myself to think, okay, I know the facts of what's going on right now, but I'm also wondering about how things are shifting and developing and evolving for me to continue to challenge myself and to overcome my own barriers that I've set for myself. These, and I hate, pulling an Oprah, but self-limiting beliefs, right? What are these things that we give ourselves to feel almost crippled by? Because we have a choice to cripple ourselves or not. We have a choice to also remember what our mindfulness of our current emotions, thoughts, and judgments, or even bodily sensations are. And then therefore expanding on those 4 or 5 main things that we deal with every day to make it a problem, or to use it and say, okay, these are the things that are happening and that's it, as opposed to these are the things that are happening and therefore I'm going to blow it out of proportion. Right? So we have a choice consciously every day to make these little actions.
We choose how we interpret. We choose our interpretation.
Right.
of like, did you ever, maybe this is before your time, but I know you didn't really read much, but do you remember those books that were Choose Your Own Adventure?
Yeah, I love them.
Right? Yeah. So it's just like that.
It is.
Sure.
It totally is like that. And as far as when we think about, like, I just noticed like a headline popped on my phone, and we are kind of talking in and out about returning to recovery, returning through our society. And from CBC, it was just posted, well, updated yesterday, I guess, but it says only 12 more. I mean, not only, but compared to what the death counts have been, 12 more die of COVID-19 in BC, but end of health emergency is in sight as only 481 new cases of COVID recorded over the 3 days.
That's what I was. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which is still a lot of cases. It's still a lot, but I mean, it's saying like an average of about 160 cases and 4 deaths have been recorded each day since the last update on Friday.
Wow. Yeah. No, I mean, and it was only, what was it, like maybe a month ago that it was like 1,000 a day or not?
Yeah,
So
a couple months ago. Well, the circuit breakers, so end of March, and we're at the beginning of June, so end of March, end of April, end of May. Okay,
Yeah.
so like, yeah, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But that's still fantastically, a short period of time to condense that information for sure.
And I just had this is a real, this is my opinion. This is just my opinion, but
Yeah.
it's kind of driving me a bit nuts with friends and it shouldn't. Okay. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but let's just say, I think a lot of us maybe are going to be struggling with keeping good friendships thriving where you may not have the same opinion on vaccinations or not even masks, but more just have you been, I know we talked about this recently. I'm not really articulating myself properly, but that's just because I don't want to burn any bridges or talk ill of
Sure.
friends, anything like that. But I just think, and I'm already starting to see it, people that have decided for their own reasons that they won't get vaccinated,
Yeah.
that those people are having trouble maybe reintegrating into society well with those, I'm going to say like the majority, because I think, well, it is a majority now of people that have been vaccinated in BC specifically, I think a lot of places. So that's going to be a huge topic, I think, for quite a while.
Well, it will. This is kind of unrelated, and this is a lot earlier in the pandemic. I wasn't really, I wasn't even close with this individual. It was more of an acquaintance more than anything. But, the acquaintance said that they're moving back to BC, which is where they lived before, and they had been living in Toronto. And I made some just simple comment on my own post of Instagram saying, like, I want us to have the least amount of time to have the world be like this. And if you are not part of our province, please don't come to our province until it's safe to do so. We need to get back, and we are at that point. We were doing relatively well. It was the summer of last year. Please understand the state that our world is in right now. Our country is in right now. Don't travel. And so that individual, because they were planning to move here, sent a message and saying, and they said like, and this is where I leave you, and gave this whole like thing. And I was just thinking, okay, you know what? I know the person's character from when I first was in touch with them and briefly worked alongside them, and I didn't think twice about it. But it's just interesting how some people can be so personally affected by a statement, take it as a personal attack, kind of what you're referencing to, when all you're really saying is that yes, like, you might have to put certain things on hold for the better judgment of the length of how much we are going through, and that little action could potentially make a difference in how we can all, as a universe or as a country at the very least, maybe move a little bit more faster and more sustainably than if we didn't make those choices. So when you talk about difference of alignment, difference of social relationships. Like I don't mind saying it. Like I've actually had a few friends so-called break up with me, you know,
Mhm.
and completely in a way where personally, I didn't do anything intentionally wrong or critical to affect those bonds with people. But knowing that, understandably, when high stress situations come, difference of culture, different priorities, different lifestyles, or common grounds are presented, it can bring out the worst in someone's character in order to preserve themselves, to take care of what is the most priority to their lives. And honestly, I'm not bitter. I don't feel a sense of animosity.
Yep.
I wish whomever has been through similar situations in the last couple of years to know that it really shows yourself what you are at the core and who you are wanting to be when this pandemic is lifted, and maybe our states of consciousness are perhaps maybe a little bit different once we're not under as much global stress and life decisions that are in some ways being thrown upon us, like from the pressure of the news or government or politics and things like that, and also the other side of it from our own morals and ethics and what we feel, because these things wouldn't have come up if we hadn't been chosen to make those decisions, right? And so it's now catapulting marriages, friendships, maybe even ethics in a professional work environment that's been a long relationship. Like these things are all being catapulted. And then once we're out of COVID, these things I think will continue to come up perhaps because we're now more alerted to these things to think about, these considerations.
Well, and I think that a lot of people, when they're faced with something that's come out of left field and it's very stressful and they're totally wound up, and how do you think they're going to react? They're usually going to react in an explosive manner or be reactive
Mm-hmm.
and attacking,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like those are kind of, I think, more unfortunately more innate in human beings, because we back way back when we had like a tiger come out of the woods or whatever it was, like we had to fight, right? So it's that fight or flight mentality. So that's happening to a lot of us now, and I think that a lot of us are on edge. And so if we could just take a breath, and especially with all these topics where there's going to be a lot of polarizing opinions,
Yeah.
attacking, we have to keep the conversation open and listen to both sides. Like I may not agree with the fact that you've decided not to get vaccinated, not because of health reasons, but for maybe other reasons that don't make any sense to me. But I don't want to lose a friendship over it. I want to listen, but I can't. But there's something inside of me, like I'm feeling it even right now, a frustration and a bit of an anger. And so that has to, we have to somehow dial that back in. I mean, at least I can recognize it and talk about it, but a lot of people can't.
Mm-mm.
And that's where you're getting people who are protesting, anti-vaccines or pro-vaccines. And I don't know how much good that does at all.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, people just want to be heard. We've kind of talked about in past with our guests, even we've talked about how the previous presidency in the United States has affected has kind of blurred the lines of public freedom of speech, and that includes acts of hatred, acts of violence, acts of discrimination, of racism, of homophobia, of anti-Semitism, like so many happening right now. And um, I'm glad it happened in the sense that people have spoken up and we can bring some change. But what is unfortunate is that usually when something is polarized, you will have both ends of that polarizing spectrum, which is unfortunate. But this, understandably, the reality is that there's going to be one side of something, and most likely it doesn't mean it's the same amount, but there will be some other kind of catalyst, and then eventually some kind of neutralizing, hopefully, from both ends, to kind of both be heard. So when we think about friendships and relationships or work relationships or anything where it's you in relation to something else, I find if it's something that you know you can't necessarily change or control about yourself, whatever that might be, and to know that in the end of the day, you stand by your ethics and your morals, your values, but also take responsibility for your actions potentially that might have been from a place of ignorance or lack of awareness. I think that's, for me at least, currently in my body, in the age of I am in this part of my life. That's how I look at it right now.
Mhm.
Is okay, if you can hypo analyze every action you've done, everything you've said, every opinion you might have had, whatever it may be, and then you think about in relation to where you might have been with whoever it was, and you think, is there something that I could have done different? Is there something that maybe I wasn't aware of? Like check yourself. But at the end of the day, when you do your checklist and you think, if I was to ask my mom and my dad, if I was to ask my significant other, like my partner, if I was to ask my best friend that's known me for a decade or 7 years or whatever length, and you think, is that how the people that that know you portray you, perceive you? And if they say no, you can also look at the fact of what's justified and what's not, as opposed to what is potentially one's own insecurity, projection, and judgment onto you because of what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And they use you as a scapegoat because they know that you can handle it, or that, they don't care about you in the same way. So they don't mind, kind of giving you the kick in the ass.
Well, and you can only be, once you've kind of done your due diligence, and you can only be as honest as you can be about what you feel, and you vocalize that. And then, I guess what I'm really struggling with as well is, once you've kind of done all that and you've stated your opinion,
Yep.
and you can't change somebody else's opinion, how do you move forward? And I think that is also what we somehow need to do as a society.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be able to really reflect inward. But then after a certain point, you need to be able to say, okay, I know that this is nothing relating to me. And that's something that I had to really go through a lot in teaching, actually, in being a contractor and being part of so many different spaces that contracted me for my services, and seeing the thread of similar outcomes in terms of losing an opportunity, or
Mhm.
without any clarity, or any ability to have a mutual open-ended conversation about difference of learning from each other, and just being like, nope, this is the outcome, and that's the decision that's been made, and you have no say in any of this. And so there's definitely a bit of a trauma response to that, because whenever one might say something, you automatically think, I don't have a voice, I don't have something to say, whatever I want to say does not matter. There's no sense of respect. And I think when we come through the COVID and come through the COVID-19 pandemic, all I'm hoping for is that people will be a little bit more compassionate, understanding, and at least willing to understand where someone might be coming from, regardless if this means that it ties or severs the relation with whatever said A and example A and exhibit B.
Mhm.
At least have more non-violent communication,
Yeah.
non-judgmental communication, to understand, okay, maybe me and them, me and you, me and there, maybe it's not aligned anymore, but to know that it's okay and that there isn't any hatred. It's just, it's not the right fit right now. It could be the right fit in the future. It might not be the right fit ever. Maybe it wasn't the right fit to begin with. But as opposed to pointing fingers and blaming and causing hatred and ridiculing one's character, things that they can't control about themselves, especially something like a disability or sexuality or financial status, whatever it might be, because people can be so hurtful without any need to be hurtful.
Yep. And then what I said before too, just, well, you kind of summed it up, but just not attacking, and patience.
Yep.
Patience. I mean, oh my God, I think that's basically what we've all had to learn over this past, how long, and patience is just going to come out in different ways now, and in relation to different things now, like what I just said
Yeah.
about friendships and those kinds of things, and family, and and how people step out into so-called real life again. Have people. Some people are not going to flock to it as easily as others.
Yeah.
You know, so we need to have compassion, patience, all those juicy things.
Yeah. So, and I think that's something that's a nice thing to end on is how can we have more compassion and patience for each other?
Mm-hmm.
And then also stand up for ourselves as well. Like, you know, when we go into this new society, whatever this is going to look like, how do we identify what our needs are and understanding that it's a matter of us taking the best care of ourselves and nothing more than that.
Yes. That's a perfect way to end it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Well, my friend,
I gotta say, I mean, this last sip is...
I already finished my last sip of, there's one drop. Okay.
Well, you know, for those that are listening to us to the very end of this, Rachel and myself are shifting the way that we record our content for the month of June onward. We are going to make sure we have more of me and her. So one episode a week, we'll be recording just the two of us, and then we'll have a guest the other day of that week, so that way you get a 50-50 balance, and then hopefully some additional content on different streaming like Instagram or whatever it may be to kind of give a more rounded scope of our content.
Netflix. No, I'm just kidding.
Right, exactly. Well, you never know. You never know. Maybe some other new Netflix competitor that will be Canadian based that we can get our way into.
Absolutely. Jewish Canadian.
Oh my God, exactly. Yeah, Canadian.
Well, love you lots.
Love you too. And we'll talk soon.
Okay, bye.
Hey, text you in 10 minutes. Bye.